Okay. Ravenous wolves are not your brothers. I did a video about this a little while ago, but the audio was so bad that I kind of need to revisit it. I took it down. Anyway, how do you know if you're dealing with a ravenous wolf who is not your brother? Well, he hates you, for one. That's a good clue. Uh, Now, John talks about this that the ones who hate their brothers are murderers and don't have eternal life in them. Now, this is not talking about, you know, being angry at someone and having petty strife. I mean, that's not good. That's flesh. This is something deeper. They are like Cain. They go in the way of Cain. Cain hated Abel because Abel's deeds were declared righteous. Abel was declared righteous and Cain was rejected. Now, what did Abel do? He became a shepherd in a time when sheep were not used for food. He wasn't providing something useful to people who did not have a revelation of God's manner of salvation through blood sacrifice. So Abel lived by faith, and Jesus said he was the first prophet, and he offered up an offering of a slain lamb with the fat portion, which indicated he knew what pleased God. And this made Cain so angry because Cain had offered the fruit of his labor, right? And that labor was on the cursed ground. He had sweat and toiled and brought forth fruit from the earth and tried to offer that, neglecting the fact that God had already said that the earth was cursed because of sin. God doesn't want the cursed earth, He wants blood. And if you do not live by faith in the blood of the Lamb and offer that for your sins, you will be rejected. You will not be declared righteous. If you toil and sweat and offer up something from what God has cursed, you're just showing you hate God's program. And you're going to be set then because God warned Cain, hey, sin is crouching at the door and it's going to take possession of you and master you. It was his anger at Abel that came out. And I don't think Cain had any idea that he was going to kill Abel. I think sin came and took possession of him because he did not acknowledge its power. And he did not acknowledge the power of the blood. And he didn't acknowledge the way God considers man righteous. He despised it. And that caused him to be filled with hatred. And the sin in his members took possession of him and caused him to kill his brother. Now, that is the kind of person that a wolf is. A wolf rejects the blood and counts it an unclean thing and calls the grace of God lasciviousness and says you're just using grace to get away with the fact that you're not doing anything useful. Look at me. I'm toiling and sweating, and you won't acknowledge how hard I'm working. And the grace believer says, I've got nothing. I'm not going to trust in myself. I'm not going to put confidence in my flesh. All I can do is offer up the blood because that's what God prescribed. And God has declared me righteous because of that. Well, that's going to make the wolf very angry, and the wolf's fangs are going to come out. And you'll know when you're dealing with the wolf because they'll take you to the section of Matthew 7 that they love which tells you that Jesus is going to reject you when you stand at the judgment seat and you've deceived yourself into thinking you're a believer. And they're going to flip it around and say, because your faith is not works, and you are therefore rejected. Okay? Now they ignore the rest of the Sermon on the Mount, especially the part about the beam in your eye. But they love that portion. And the reason they love that portion is because they would love nothing more than to see you in outer darkness, weeping and gnashing your teeth, and in the tribulation, suffering, and in hell, ultimately. That's what they want for you. They don't want you to bear fruit and be satisfied with God as your portion and know the peace and joy of the Lord and have grace, because they don't have that. So they want nothing good for you, and it's obvious because they're trying to tear you down in every scripture they bring you to. All they're doing is trying to shut the door of the kingdom of heaven to you and make sure you can't get in and don't get in. And it's because they're not entering in themselves. And it's evident because there's no joy and no peace with them. They're like Cain, and they hate their brethren. And you know what? There's going to come a time when the restraint that is presently in place, because the salt of the light is here, is going to be removed, and their real nature is going to come out like Cain, and they're going to have blood on their hands. They're going to be surprised at the things, the atrocities they're going to commit in the name of the Lord. It's already played out in history before, and it's going to happen again. Meanwhile, they're like Cain. You know, Cain did not... I had to get away from the dog. He found a squeaky toy, and he's trying to impress me with it. Cain did not just disappear after God set the mark on him. Oh no, he went off and built cities. Cain is very zealous, and he doesn't stop. And he has an energy about him that causes him to keep going and going and going and going. And it's unfortunate that these people won't go away. They're obsessed by the zeal that Satan's put in their flesh. And it doesn't give them the ability to rest. Now, a Christian, on the other hand, has a rest. And we even have seasons where God lets us go through times where he's not troubling us because he's letting the land rest. And so during those times, the wolves come and say, you're idle, you need to work, look at you. See, they don't understand rest at all because they think they're carrying out God's program by building and zealously rebuking everybody, building their little kingdoms. Well, they're building with wood, hay, and stubble at best. At worst, they're not even believers. So I don't really have anything good to say about wolves. I don't know how to end this in a way that'll make you happy if you're a wolf. But the other thing is, a lot of them declare how bold they are for the Lord, and they'll say, you know, you're going to have to give your life for Jesus soon. It's coming. You know, it's going to hit the fan, and you better be ready. Well, you know what? I have no idea what I would do. I used to fear that I would deny the name of the Lord under duress. Actually, though, I have no confidence in the flesh. I don't know what I'm going to do the next moment. And I don't take vows, and I don't try to show the Lord how serious I am, because he said, hey, you can't even change one color of hair on your head. Don't swear by heaven. Don't take vows, because you cannot add an inch to your stature, and you don't know what you're going to do the next moment. You just need to say, Lord, have mercy on me. In the early church, there were many who were zealous for God outwardly and wanted to make a big display about it and thought God valued martyrdom. So they threw themselves at the Romans and begged to be put in the Colosseums. And you know what? They ended up denying the Lord. And then they had to go back to the churches in shame, and the churches said, hey, we're not even sure you're believers. You need to wait in the back and not have communion for a few months until we know you've repented. It was a real serious thing. What do we do with these people who've denied the Lord? And you know what? We don't really know the backstory because people emphasize that part that, they denied the Lord and what do you do with them. But I'll bet they're like these Lordshippers today. They're presumptuous. They trust in themselves and they think they're so bold and brave and they're going to do some mighty thing for God. And you know what? When the time comes, they may very well be the ones that find out I didn't have what I thought I had. And they'll end up denying the Lord. And maybe that will be the first step for them to have grace. Because Peter's the pattern for that, right? He ended up denying the Lord. And he was the one who was presumptuous and said, hey, no, look at me. I'll follow you to death. Jesus said, no, by the time the cock crows 3 times, you're going to be denying me, right? He denied him every time. And then he wept. And you know what? God said, hey, I prayed for you. Satan was trying to sift you like wheat. And you need to convert your brothers once you're converted and strengthen the church and feed the flock. So you don't want to cast judgment utterly on these people. You never know what they're going to go through, that God's going to turn them into a person who actually trusts in Jesus and not themselves. Well, those are kind of random thoughts. It's early. I'm not awake yet, but just responding to some things I see.